do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon, if I can, to seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act for myself, to enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this, with God's help, I have done. All this is what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone this morning? Are we feeling great? Jimmy, how difficult would it be to replay that video? Let's replay the video because I think this is a video we all need to watch and hear, and then we'll move forward. How's that? Thumbs up, great. Let's take a moment to watch the video.
I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon, if I can, to seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act for myself, to enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this, with God's help, I have done. All this is what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Thank you for allowing me to replay that. I have watched that video over and over and over for about 8 hours in one day. And the reason why I wanted Jimmy to replay that is because when you watch that video over and over, the first time you'll hear something and you'll ignore everything else. And then you'll watch it again and then you'll hear something new and you'll ignore everything else. And what I needed to do was watch that video, which I did for about 8 hours in a day. Now, for those of you who know me, I typically don't sit still for 8 hours in a day. But at the end of that 8 hours, and there were some breaks, there might have been a little peanut butter, some celery, some vegetable juice, maybe a couple of Oreo cookies in there. But at the end of that video and the end of that day, I had 2.5 pages of notes. And my energy was higher at the end of 8 hours than it was when I started. So, Justin, if there's a way to share that video with our ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the video to share. So, Jimmy, thank you for replaying that video. So, my name is Brady Sandahl, and I have the privilege of being here for year 3. And Justin asked if I would come in and share with you some words and maybe be your closing keynoter. So the topic that we wanted, good morning, Aaron. The topic that we wanted to talk about today with you is, how do you take everything you've heard and become a specialist in your one thing? And naturally, you could be a specialist in luxury. Now, for those of you who went there and said, wait a minute, I don't sell luxury, I'm not talking price point. I'm talking service. And I'm not really one to be on a stage. I'd rather be on the floor with you. Are you okay with that? Yes, sir. Okay, cool. So let me show you a little story. So I was advised to stay at downtown Bozeman at the Armory. Does anyone have anyone they know who works at the Armory? Okay, so let me share with you the arrival into the Armory. So I arrived at midnight on Wednesday, and they said, you must be checking in. I said, I am checking in. And she says, well, you've selected one of our hotel choice rooms. And I said, okay, sounds great to me. And she says, we have you in 2 queen beds with a beautiful view. And I said, well, that's great. So I check into the Armory for this beautiful view, which is on floor 4, looking at a brick wall in a narrow alley. So that's the Hotel Choice Award. So I asked her, I said, well, in the morning, I said, is there any opportunity to buy something to enjoy while we're here at the hotel? And she says, well, just a minute, let me share with you what's going on. I said, okay. She's like, there's a conference going on upstairs, and we can't find the key. So we're trying to move them to the pool. And I said, I would suggest you find the key. And this morning, I went to check out, and here's how it went. Oh, hi. You must be checking out. I am checking out. Okay. Great. Your room number? 411. Okay. We're done. I said, oh, no, we're not done. Oh, we're so not done, sweetheart. Oh, we're not done at all. We're not even close to being done. She's like, what do you mean? I said, oh, you'll know when we're done. We're not there yet. So I just had one of those California moments when I pulled out my Keller Williams luxury card and my Ritz-Carlton black card. And I said, I just want you to know that I have the privilege of working and leading this organization, which allows me to travel 3 to 4 days a week, which means I spend a lot of money on hotel, my own money, not KWI, my own money to be here, because I self-fund my experiences. And she says, what's your point? Oh, God, I live for these moments. I'm like, record this, because this shit is getting good. And I said, well, sweetheart, the point is that I'm very loyal to this brand. And she's like, but you're a silver elite. I said, I know, with the Hotel Choice Room. And I said, I just want to ask you a question. Is there a reason why you didn't ask or use the words thank you? And she just paused, and she says, I've never thought about it. At which point, the bell captain comes over and says, Mr. Sandahl, please allow me to thank you for staying with us. I understand your Uber car is out front, and I see you need help getting to the car with your tea and your bags. It'd be my pleasure to take you there. And I turned to her and I said, you should report to him. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you are like, oh my God, I didn't know he was like that. Oh, I'm exactly like that. I'm exactly like that. So I will be I'll be finishing a beautiful letter for the general manager of Kimpton, and I'll copy the CEO of Kimpton, who I know, and I will be CCing the CEO of Ritz-Carlton, who I also know. Let's see who responds first. I'm that guy. So this morning, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and that is opposite of what happened to me. The question I wrote, when you think of luxury, what comes to mind? Service. What else? Personalized. Going beyond. People that can. Enjoyment, anticipation, all of those beautiful words. When you think of who does luxury, who comes to mind? Everyone. Who comes to mind? Brady. That was perfectly played right now, by the way. Who? You. Good. Excellent. So I was interviewing the VP of Operations for the Seattle Renaissance Hotel. If you get to Seattle, that is the place to stay. And I've never been loyal to Renaissance because I primarily can't spell it. I know it's R-E-N, and then it goes like downhill from there. I know R-I-T-Z dash Carlton really, really well. But he said to me, he says, listen, the definition of luxury happens in the first 10 seconds of every interaction. And you would have thought the TV show that we had on Wednesday stopped. I mean, everybody in the room like halted. And I said, where in the world did you learn the first 10 seconds? And he says, well, it's very simple. I learned it from my mother. Every time someone came to the door within 10 seconds, she made them feel like family. One of the advantages, one of the many advantages that you have in Montana is you still have manners. You still have hospitality. I'm pretty sure the front desk person, she came from Los Angeles. Bless her heart. So when you think of luxury, what ideas come into your head? How does your mindset change when you think of luxury? How does it change?
You should have a
certain experience. Step it up. The finest. Comfort. I love that. Memorable. And how do your activities change? How do you show up differently with luxury? Polished. Intention.
I think you cater to all the senses.
Oh, all the senses. Beautiful, Aaron. Prepared. Beautiful. So what keeps us from differentiating service? Stereotype, fair. Mindset, fair. Matching, fair. It might be energy. It might be mindset. It might be skills. It might be environment. It might be cities. What's that? Training. Beautiful. Beautiful. So the thing I'd want you to say is you have to become the local market expert. The number one thing you have to master is becoming the local market expert. Because you have more people coming into Bozeman than I think most cities see in their lifetime. I mean, I think they're going to, double, triple the population in Bozeman, which is going to impact all the other cities in Montana. So the questions I want you to write down, 2 questions. One is, who is buying right now? Who is buying right now? That is the most important question for Lucy, and that's the most important question for Taylor, and that's the most important question for Aaron. Whether you're a vendor partner, or you're an agent, or you're a leader, who is buying right now? So let me ask you, who is buying in your market right now? Who's buying?
Those who can afford to.
Those who can afford to.
Those escaping California.
Escaping California.
People wanting a different pace of life.
Wanting a different pace of life.
People having to move out of their rentals.
People having to move out of their rentals. An unfortunate reality.
Medical relocation.
Medical relocation.
Investors.
Investors.
Baby boomers.
Baby boomers. And I'm going to get real candid when I share this with you, that people who buy real estate may have more money than us. And they may not have the fear that you have about the market. Their perception of reality may be better than what you have in your own head today. Would it surprise you to learn that there are 22,000 people in the country that have $1 million sitting in their bank account and have no idea what to do with it? Yeah. So the second question is, then who's selling right now? So write that question down. Who's selling right now? And then I'm going to have you answer, who is selling right now?
Boomers.
Boomers. People upgrading. People downsizing. Life changes. People dying. Yeah. Their heirs are, yeah. They're coming back to life to get that top sale. People getting divorced. So we learned from John Maxwell there are 4 reasons why people make a change, whether they buy or sell. And I want you to write these down because these are going to affect Dennis as a leader. These are going to affect all of you as agents. These are going to affect our vendor partners. These are going to affect the people that you call your significant others. People make changes for 4 reasons. The number 1 reason is they've been hurt. So what's a reason why someone's been hurt? Aaron said death. Someone said divorce. What are some other ways they've been hurt? Financial, the job situation has changed. Accident. What's that? The death in the family. So here's what just happened in Palm Springs. So this is a definition of how people get hurt in Palm Springs. It's very, very sad. She calls me. Mary calls me. She says, Brady, Mary, what's going on? Brady, we've been destroyed. We've been destroyed. Well, what is that? She's like, we cannot live on the 4th tee of the golf course. And I said, excuse me? She's like, we can't live on the 4th tee. Well, we have to live on the 18th hole. And I said, well, why is that? She's like, because we don't get invited to anything. We want to move from the 4th tee to the 18th hole because we'll get invited. We don't get invited to anything. I'm thinking, it's probably your personality. Yeah. We also had the call last week, and no, it was actually last month, and they called and said, oh my God, we have got to get out of this house. We cannot be in this house another year. And I said, well, what's going on? Well, our grandkids came in, and they took over the house during spring break. And we realized we either need to have a bigger house or no house, because we don't want this to happen again. So hurt doesn't have to mean divorce or death. It could be that they've been hurt and they don't want to feel that pain again. Well, the second way is they've now seen something that they like better. What are ways that people have seen something that they like better? Starts with an O and then an H. An open house. They've seen something that they like better. HGTV, open house. They went to a dinner party. They went to a different country club. They realized they want to be on West Bozeman versus East Bozeman, or they want to be South Bozeman, or they want to be close to the airport, but they've seen something better. The third reason is they've learned that they like something more. Well, you know, we went back to Seattle for the weekend, and we learned that we really want to be closer to the water, or we want to be closer to our grandchildren, or we've learned we've got to be closer to the home office at Microsoft. And the fourth reason, which is going to be a very large one over the next 2 decades, is they've received something, and it's probably going to be an inheritance. So your job as a sales professional, whether you're a vendor or you're an agent or you're a leader, is to figure out if they've been hurt, what they've seen, what they've learned, or what they've received. Now, this is weird to say, in my 30 years, oh my God, it's been 35 years. I'm 53. 35 years of working for executives like Blake Nordstrom of the Nordstrom family and Bill Gates and Howard Schultz, all these people that you know, I've learned that there are 5 different ways that they become specialists in their area. Now, this is why the vendors can take notes, because this is not 5 ways to get a listing. This is 5 ways to become an expert. These are the ways that Nordstrom and Starbucks and Microsoft and University of Phoenix and other companies that I've worked for or consulted with, this is what they do. I'm going to give you the 5, and then we'll go through them. And by the way, they were here till next Thursday. Kidding. The first one is prospect. Now, don't get nervous or upset when I use that word. That's not a bad word. But that is one way that certain organizations become a specialist, is they prospect. The second way is they market. They do things to have the consumers find them. So prospect and market. Kelly, the third way is present. Kelly's a good presenter. So they learn how to present to their consumers to become an expert or a specialist. The fourth way is they learn how to serve. If Justin was in the room, I would say this is probably his strength zone. Justin is not necessarily a prospector. I don't know that he is a big marketer, but is a very, very strong presenter. And the fourth, serve. People serve, which Justin does at a high level. The fifth way is they build. So we've got prospect, where you go find them, market, you attract, present, you serve, and you build. So let's talk about strategy 1. Prospect. When we were building this for today, I asked Justin, what do you think they're going to say about prospecting? So let me ask you, when I say prospecting, how do you define that? What is that? How do you define prospecting? Reaching out. Networking. How you find your client. What other words? Lead generation. Figuring out what people want. Being in community. Relationship. This is such a nice crowd because in California, like, it means cold calling. We're just not going to talk about it here, right? We won't say the 2 nasty words of cold calling. But here's what prospecting is in my mind. It's warm versus cold. Now, I've probably sold, I don't know, I'm going to say 1,500 homes to maybe 1,600 homes myself. Not the group, but myself. And I've never once made a cold call to find an expired listing. I've never made a cold call to find a canceled listing. I've never made a cold call pretty much in my life. And I'm not saying that you should follow what I did. I'm just figuring out that, or saying to you that I always thought you should go warm versus cold. So if Aaron's house has expired, I'm going to figure out who lives in Aaron's neighborhood that I can call that can connect me to Aaron. And I'm going to have that person make the call to Aaron before I call Aaron. I love our company. I love our company. And our company should realize that our agents don't want to cold call. It's my forced smile. The other thing besides warm versus cold is you need to become the expert not in telling people, but in asking questions. Prospecting is simply a series of asking questions. And I'm going to give you the script on what to do to ask questions. See, we think about prospecting as, I got to call people I don't know. I got to get through 30 contacts. I got to tell them everything about the market versus asking one question, which I'll share that question in a few minutes. The third thing I wrote down is you've got to become an expert in understanding the personality types. Now, we've talked about this at MontanaCamp 1 and MontanaCamp 2. We're going to talk about it again. There are 4 personality types that you've got to figure out really quickly. Here are the 4. Amiable. Now, some of you are amiable, Taylor. And what that means is that you're very soft and sweet, and you don't like any conflict at all. And they're just very, very happy. And the minute there's conflict, they're out of the room. Or they'll change the topic. Now, the second type is going to be your analytical. They are non-emotional, and they're very system and model-based. And one of our analyticals learned yesterday the importance of having a system and model that he can have to build his business. Yes, this is you. The third is the driver, and they want to go from A to Z very, very quickly. And that means that they're going to have short sentences and really quick sound bites, and they move really fast. And the fourth is the opposite. We call those the expressives. Expressives are going to talk through an answer. They typically wear bright clothes. They speak with their hands. There's a lot of energy. They're always smiling. And they're going to figure things out as they verbal vomit through the conversation. Right? So the way you figure out an amiable is you're going to, or an analytical, or a driver, or an expressive, is you're going to ask questions like, describe the home that you live in. Or describe the vacation that you just went on. And they'll speak about the friendliness and the warmth and the energy, and just everyone got along so beautifully. And the analyticals talk about, well, the flight was 2 hours and 17 minutes, and we went at 33,000 feet above, and then there was a little bit of turbulence for 17 minutes. And when we got to the hotel, there were 417 rooms. And we were on the 3rd floor with the direction to the northeast. We were hoping for the southwest for more sun. Oh my God, kill me. And the driver's like, why would I answer your question? And the expressive's like, well, my vacation, well, actually, I was born in 1970. And my father, and you're like, oh my God. So I want you to pick a partner at the table, and for the next 2 minutes, ask them a couple of questions and figure out if they're amiable, analytical, expressive, or a driver. Take 2 minutes and ask some questions like, describe the home you live in, describe the home you want to buy, describe the vacation. Figure out what personality, if there's a group of 3, 1 can watch, 2 can participate. We'll see in 2 minutes.
She has an open concept background. Interesting. Okay. So you're not hosting a lot of dinner parties, which is not a surprise. You can record. Okay. So you're very
All right, let's come back to the room. Shh. Who figured out, I'm not going to call you out, who figured out their partner's personality type? Yeah? How did you figure it out? What were some of the buzzwords that they used? Yes?
Do you mind just running through the definitions of each one just one more time to read?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. So amiable is going to be, if I'm working with an amiable, I'll be like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. How's the family? Everyone good? Yeah, they're good. They're feeling great. Is there anything I can do to make your world easier today? Just being here. Yeah. And I just want you to know I'm going to find a buyer for your home. They're going to love it as much as you do, and you're just going to feel so good about the process. Yeah, I knew that, right? So amiable is real soft. There's a lot of candles, some light music, no conflict. Very calming. They might be medicated. I might need to get medicated. The analytical is the different situation. So I've put together a proposal. It's got 4 points, and it'll take about 7 hours to get through. Now, the 4 points are going to explain how we're going to approach the situation, find out the problem to solve, and we're going to solve it. And then at the end, you're going to choose the options of 1, 2, 3, or 4 in that order. Now, does that type of system or model work for you? Yeah, he's like, oh my God, this is exciting. Like, he gets me. Right? Now, a driver is like, would you like me to find a buyer for your home?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, I'll get it done by Thursday. Is that fast enough?
Okay, if that's what I have to wait for.
Wednesday's better? Yeah, it's been great working with you. And then the expressive is like, oh my God, you look fantastic.
Yo, not as good as you.
Oh my God, that's so nice. How's the family?
Oh, they're fabulous.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, my daughter.
I know that daughter. God help her. So a lot of it is theatrical. But the key is not to figure out who you are, is to figure out who they are. Now our trick, one of the tricks of how we sell a home every day, which our team in Palm Springs, we've got 7 salespeople. We just closed $100 million yesterday for the year. Congrats. Yeah, $100 million. And here is one of the tricks, is the first person who figures out the personality type puts that in the CRM system. So the next person knows who they are and understands how to speak with them. That's probably tip number 1.
Okay, so I have a question.
A question.
So then you kind of want to be a shapeshifter, like you're reading who I have in front of
Well,
me, and then
yeah, you want to figure out. I mean, so what personality type are you?
we didn't quite figure that out.
She might be amiable. She's so soft and sweet.
Describe the home you live in now.
It's a big house that has.
Okay, wait, start over. Is this on?
Okay.
Describe the home you live in now.
It's a big house in a nice neighborhood. There's lots of dogs. It's very chaotic, and we like to walk outside and enjoy the outdoors.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh, you're expressive.
There's a river nearby.
Oh, she
We
keeps
walk to
talking.
the river. The dogs are unleashed.
You might have figured out that I'm a driver. I'm like, take the mic away from her, Jimmy. No, I'm just teasing. So expressive, you're expressive.
That's expressive.
So what happens is if one of our inside sales agents says that she's expressive, it's going to show an E in the CRM next to her name. And then I know I've got to be, oh my God, I am so excited to work with you.
Yeah.
And I know that I know you'd love
That
that.
brings my energy up,
I
and
know.
then-
Oh my God, this is going to be beautiful and exhausting for me. Oh my God. And I'm looking at the minutes like, oh my God, she's still talking about how she loves to walk outside. I'm going to go walk outside and never come back in the building. So the trick is that I know as a driver that I've got to have more time dedicated to her. The way you add more business is you become more versatile using the personality types. You need to become the expert in presenting value and data. Become the expert in presenting value and data. Now, you're going to learn from me that the way you present is not talking. I'm going to give you the formula for how you present data and value. I'll share that in a couple seconds. And you're also going to have to become the expert in one thing. What is the one thing that you have to sell yourself on and everyone else around you? And I hope our leaders are in the room listening. What's the one thing you have to sell yourself on every day? You're the expert's a possibility. What's that? Your abilities is valid, but what's the most important thing you're going to have to sell yourself on every day? Experience, but what's the most important?
Confidence?
Confidence. What's the most important?
Great happy attitude.
I love that. What's the most important? Urgency. And let me share with you why. You came out of the world's fastest real estate market where speed mattered more than service. And the brakes halted somewhere between March and June of last year. I know because I look at agents' businesses 3 to 4 hours a day. I've probably studied Erin's business more than she knows. Most agents' businesses halted between March and June. Erin's an exception. Her life's actually getting better, and her business is getting bigger. But the number one thing you have to sell yourself on is urgency, because the market's not giving it to you. Am I wrong?
Nope.
Right? So you're selling urgency every single day. You're selling yourself that you've got to show up a little bit faster. You're showing your team members they've got to show up a little bit faster, and you've got your clients to show up faster. In other words, you've got to close them. So, Jimmy, slide number 1, please. If you were in my office, sitting at my desk, there are a couple things you'd see. I was in Ponte Vedra, Florida, last week or the week before, and someone gave me chocolate-covered popcorn, which is very sweet. And so I referenced in the meeting that I thought the chocolate-covered popcorn was great. So you know what they did? Smart ass, sends me a tumbler of chocolate-covered popcorn, which is now halfway gone. So besides that, you would see this. On the left side of the screen, we have what's called the 4 C's. This is the formula for presenting value and data. And the first C is what we call care. Whether it's amiable, analytical, driver, or expressive, you have to show that you care. Every conversation has to start with care, no exception. The second C is you have to be curious about the other person. It doesn't matter if they're amiable, analytical, driver, or expressive. You have to be curious about them. The third C is you have to consult, not preach. Consult by asking some questions, and I'll show you how this translates. And the fourth C is you have to close. Now, I love Keller Williams, and you know this is the final company. I will be here 47 more years. I'm going to 100. I'll be at MontanaCamp 50. I might be on a hunched over, but I'm gonna be here. Care for an amiable sounds like this. It is so great to know that when I drive to the office, I think about you and your family. I'm curious, how is your family? How's your husband? How's your wife? How are the kids? Consult, would it surprise you to learn that I think about your family every single day? Close is, what can I do for your family today? What questions do you have about the real estate market that I can answer for you today? Now, an analytical is, I was driving to work during that 11-mile commute, and your family came up 3 times, and I realized that's the reason to call. I'm curious, how is everything at work? Are you getting the deliverables and hitting the goals that you wanted? Would it surprise you to learn that we've got a great book called The One Thing That May Help You? Close, would you like me to send that book to you because you're going to love all the systems and models in that book? A driver is, hey, I was driving to work. How are you doing? You're doing good? That's great. Would it surprise you to learn I'm here at your beck and call for anything that you need? What can I do for you today? Hey, we've got an event next Thursday. Would you like to show up, or should I just send you the PowerPoint? We're done. Expressive. Oh my God. I was driving to work, and your great smile flashed across my mind. I'm just curious, how in the world are you doing? How's the family? Oh my God. I love hearing your voice. You sound great. I'm curious, is everything going well in your world today? Would it surprise you to learn that we've got a lot of people that care about you? And I'm curious, what questions can we answer about the real estate market over the next hour? Because you know it's going to take an hour. The point is, the 4 C's, I didn't do a lot of talking. I did a lot of what? Asking. Now, on the other side of my computer screen, literally on my screen, and every screen of our team members is what you see. We call it the 5 by 5. 5 categories and 5 conversations, and we don't always get to all 25. But the goal is you call 5 past clients and 5 current clients. And why do you have to call the past clients and the current clients right now? Why is that important? Why is it important? Current and future business. Absolutely true. Why else is it important? Someone else is, absolutely.
Those past clients may need what the current clients have.
The past clients might need what the current clients have. I think there are 2 other reasons. One, people are on their devices more than ever before, which means they're looking and learning on things that may or may not be true. And as they're on those devices, they might drift away from you more than you thought. The second reason is, for the US, over 50% of people on the market today bought their home during the pandemic, and less than 11% are using the agent they used when they bought the home during the pandemic. Hello? Most people in business during the pandemic have fallen out. NAR, which stands for non-active realtors, kidding. National Association, in case they see the video, we love you. We love giving you our membership dollars. But they lost 100,000 members in January. In January, they wouldn't renew. All of those people are like, you know, we love that home in Helena. We love that home, but we realize we're just not using it. We haven't been there more than 2 times in 2 years, and we're just going to have to sell. Honey, what was that agent's name? Well, I think her name was Allison. Allison? That doesn't sound right. You sure it wasn't Amy? No, that doesn't, honey, that's not right either. She kind of looks like your niece, Susan. Yeah, I think it was Susan. Well, let's go on to Zillow and find Susan. Well, I don't see Susan, but Mark will do just fine. Let's call Mark. You know this is how it happens. So when you have those strategies of prospecting, I guarantee you, this is all we do in our office from 9:30 till noon. We practice the 4 C's and the 5 by 5. Now, the next 5 influencers, these are people that influence all of your vendors. They are influencers. Your attorneys are influencers, big influencers. And then you've got your agents in the feeder markets. We call that all of California. And your downriver markets are not necessarily where people are moving, but they might be moving some money out of Montana. Your average luxury consumer owns 4 homes over $1 million. So if you're in Bozeman, it's not about do you plan on selling, but what real estate in the US do you want to buy into or sell out of? You should have a minimum of 4 referral checks coming in every year. A minimum. That should be a goal. All right, so now our second strategy is around marketing. Couple things on marketing. The success for marketing is consistency, frequency, and relevancy of the message. So let me ask you a question. What do you need to do right now to create immediate commission income? Write down what's one thing that you could do right now to create immediate commission income. It might be reducing a price on a property. It might be calling one of your best investors. It might be doing a social blast through Command or whatever CRM system that you choose to use. It might be calling through the 5x5. It might be shifting from telling someone to asking something. Here's what we did in Palm Springs. We have a radio show. Well, it's actually a commercial, but they think it's a show. I'll be in the grocery store, and they're like, oh my God, I listened to your radio show. I'm like, I don't have a radio show. I have a 90-second commercial, but I love that you think it's a show. That's concerning, but I'll take it. That's the amiable in me. So the radio show went like this. We know that you have questions about the real estate market. We want to be the team that answers the questions for you. Simply email your questions to info@bradysandahl.com, and it will be our pleasure to answer the questions for you. That was it. Now, how many leads did that come in over the course of 90 days? Hundreds, which led to about 21 listings, which led to about 40 million in closed sales volume. You don't have to think of something really dynamic. It could be to your database, what questions do you have about the market that I can answer for you today? It could be that simple. So if you figured out what you need to do to generate immediate commission income in your marketing message, then what's the next thing you do to create a line of customers that want to do business with you? What's that one thing that would create a line of business? So up here we've got our market, which is establish your brand identity. This is our brand deck. It shows our DBA, it shows our BSREG, and it shows our Keller Williams Luxury. And on the next slide, we talk about how you execute, because here's the reality. Consumers will make a judgment on what they see first. How great would it be if all of the agents in Montana started to use the Keller Williams Luxury sign? I don't know if Eric is in the room, but in Denver, they decided that they would switch out everyone's interesting for sale signs and use the KW Luxury signs. They did it in one day. And several stations, media stations, called me and said, congratulations on opening in Denver. A couple CEOs called and said, oh, congratulations on opening up in Denver. I had no idea what was going on. It's like, we've been in Denver for years. What's happening? So I started calling around to the OPs and team leaders, like, oh, we decided that we would all use the Keller Williams Luxury signs. Well, congratulations, because how many logos does the Ritz-Carlton have? And Nordstrom, and Starbucks. And yet we as entrepreneurs think we have to have 95 different ways to market ourselves. Consistency, frequency, and relevancy. And on the next slide is how you market, because consumers want to know how you market. So remember, consumers want to see, and then they want to hear, and then they want to feel. You made a judgment on what you saw of me yesterday during our therapy session. And then you had, okay, I like what I see, I'm going to listen to what they have to say, and if I like what they say, I'm going to have a feeling about that message. And you might have a feeling about us as presenters. But it's what consumers see, it's what consumers hear, it's what consumers feel that matters. And when you talk about how you market, here's the reason why my listing conversation is averaging 14 minutes. I ask them one question. What would you like me to do first to find the right buyer for your home? And they'll say, well, I don't know, you're the expert. Well, thank you for noticing. Or they might say, I'm looking for staging. Excellent. What type of staging are you looking for? Oh, I'm just looking for you to declutter what we have. Well, perfect. Would it surprise you to learn that we can do that for you? In fact, sellers select us because of our ability to declutter their homes, which gives you more money. Is there anything else you need to hear before we determine the price that will attract the right buyer for your home? No? Great. That's the script. So I recently went into a conversation, and I walked in and I could see behind them there were stacks of Sotheby's and Compass and Coldwell Banker, and I sat down, and the seller looked a little frazzled, and he says, I've been interviewing agents all day. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, what is the one thing, right? I asked him. He's like, oh my God. He's like, what did you just ask me? I said, well, what is the one thing that you'd like me to do to find the right buyer for your home? He's like, you're hired. You're hired. I said, well, thank you. I'm excited. He's like, no, you're hired. We're done. We're good. He's like, I'm just looking for someone to do aerial photography. I said, well, we do that. He's like, you're done. And I was like, that wasn't even 90 seconds. He's like, oh my God. The Sotheby's agent, 4 hours in the home. Can you imagine being in a listing appointment for 4 hours? I can't imagine a dinner for 4 hours. I mean, I can, if I've been medicated. But honestly, and he's like, and that Compass agent, 2.5 hours, I had to ask her to leave. And I was like, oh, so we should just sign the contract. He's like, oh my God, I love you. I absolutely love you. Like, you're amazing. Driver. Yeah, and then he writes down 4 referrals. And he's like, do you have a few minutes? Yeah. He's like, I'm going to call through the 4 people and have them list with you. You want to use my phone? I'll just sit here. And I just listened. He's like, oh my God, this guy is the best agent. I mean, he is absolutely incredible. You can't hire anyone else. He's like, what time are you available? Can you go? I was like, I'm available today. He's like, he's available today. Ready? Now, these prices are different. $16 million in listing business referred in at a table. Wild. The power of asking the right question. So let's go to the next slide. Third, present. I did not prospect when I got to Palm Springs because I did not know anyone. And I didn't market because I didn't have anything to market. So I learned to present at a high level. Now, I was the child that did not want to speak in front of anyone, even in front of a mirror. But I learned to develop something we call cater, C-A-T-E-R. The first is when I'm going to present to someone, whether it's to you or all of you, I'm curious about what that person needs to hear from me. What does that person need to learn from me? And then I'm going to go into asking enough questions to reinforce what I think that curiosity is around. And then I'm going to train them to that standard or that knowledge piece, and then I'm going to exceed their expectation, and then I'm going to repeat what I'm going to do for them as well as repeat it for the next person. Cater. This is on top of my monitor. Yeah. Curious. I'm curious what this audience needs to learn. And I'm going to ask you some personal questions at the front end to make sure these notes are going to be relevant. In certain situations, the leadership has been wrong, and the audience is like, we don't want to talk about them. I'm like, well, then those notes will be different. These notes were made for you. But I'll have different notes in Newport Beach next week, completely different notes, because they're in a completely different situation. I've got to ask the person questions when I'm presenting. Remember the hotel checkout this morning? I'm curious, are you checking out of our hotel or can you stay another evening? Well, I do need to check out. Well, let me ask you, was your experience at whatever that hotel was, Kimpton, exceptional? Is there anything that we could have done better? Well, let me tell you that when you return, we'll have that available for you in the property, or it's down the hall or whatever. And let me make sure that when you come back, that we have that set up for you. And by the way, when is your next business meeting in Bozeman? And can we get that on the calendar together today? So at the Seattle Renaissance Hotel, Renaissa, I think, I check in. This is brilliant. I check in, and I think they knew that I was coming in town because it was very much like, oh my God, doors open, check in, champagne, which I didn't need. And he says to me, Mr. Sandahl, it is truly our pleasure, and he walks around the counter, it is truly our pleasure to have you with us today. And I'm curious, when can we have you return? Brilliant. Brilliant. Imagine if we asked for the business, the future business, at the start of the current business in a polite way, not a commission breath way. And I said, well, I look forward to returning to Seattle, and let's see how the experience goes. He says, well, our experience continues by offering you macaroons and a refreshment beverage in the elevator. Now, how many of you have seen someone in the elevator legally handing out macaroons? I check into the room within 5 minutes. Mr. Sandahl, thank you for being a Titanium member. It's our pleasure to have you at Seattle Renaissance Hotel. We would like to bring a beverage up to your room. What would you prefer? And I said, I really would like some water and maybe some hot tea. Wonderful. We'd like to bring something extra. Do you have any dietary restrictions that may prevent you from enjoying this experience? I said, no. 15 minutes later, cheese plate, fruit plate, crackers, and some chocolate. Not some chocolate, like 8 types of truffles, which are kind of right here, right now. Curious, ask, train, exceed, repeat, cater. So let me ask you the question. When you're presenting to a consumer, not a luxury consumer, but you're presenting in a luxurious way, what do the consumers need to hear from you right now? What messages do the luxury consumers need to hear from you right now? And are you implementing cater into your business? So we're going to go to strategy 4, which is serve. If you have followed along with what I've said over the last couple of years, you know that standards matter more than ever before. Standards matter more than speed, and these are the standards of Brady Sandahl Real Estate Group in Palm Springs. So, in other words, service standards are how the service shows up for the consumers you serve, and this is our superpower. We aspire to build up those around us. Now, that is inside our organization, and that is outside of our organization, meaning I aspire to build up those members who are in our team, I aspire to build up those in our market center, and I aspire to build up those who pay us. So aspire is anticipate, because you want to anticipate what the consumer needs and give it to them before they realize they need it. And you need to serve the consumers, and I tell you that service starts with you first. Most of you are incredible at serving other people before you serve yourself. And remember that serving yourself doesn't mean that you're selfish. There is a reason why the flight attendants will say, put on your own oxygen mask first. And I gotta tell you, and I say this to KWI, and they are listening at a high level, mental wellness is a bigger problem than the pandemic. And it's not going away. So you have to serve yourself, and then you have to perform. You have to perform for the people around you and the people who pay you. And I believe you have to inspire yourself and those around you and in front of you and respond and, of course, excel. Service standards are critical. So let me ask you a question. What is a standard that you have in your business that someone would say is your superpower? What is your standard? Write it down. What is your standard that a consumer would say is your superpower? It might be your servant leadership. It might be your time to return calls. It might be your knowledge of the market. But what is the service standard that shows up in your business? And then I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and you can write it down, and then I'm going to have you cover it so no one can see it. What is something in your business that is a suggestion rather than a standard? In other words, well, if I feel like it, I'm going to return calls. If I feel like it, I'm going to return emails. If I feel like it, I'm going to give them a pre-listing package before I show up. If I feel like it, I'm going to bring a pre-listing package when I show up. What is a suggestion that should be a standard? Now, Jimmy, are there any sharp devices in the room? Yeah, any sharp knives, forks? Nothing, we're good, okay. Okay, oh, that's right, Cutco is here. Yeah, so if you could just protect those beautiful gifts for a moment, because I'm going to say something which they're not going to like me, and I just want to make sure nothing is thrown at me. When you're looking at that suggestion and you want to make it a standard, don't make it based on your current comfort zone. Make it the way that the Ritz-Carlton would make it, Four Seasons would make it, Nordstrom would make it, or the other brands you love. How would the Ritz-Carlton handle an open house? How would Nordstrom handle the selection of talent? How would Four Seasons hand off keys to a buyer buying your listing? Think about how they would do it in order for you to do it. And the second piece, which might even be a bigger reason for Cutco to stay over here, I need you to think about who, not how. And that's a great book to read. Think who, not how. And here's why. When you are thinking about a standard, you're a very strong salesperson who will sell you on the outcome that you want to sell yourself on. Someone else will probably elevate it above you. And that's happened more in my world as my world gets bigger. I can't pay attention to every single detail, but other people can. And boy, are they living big lives for the company. And by the way, empire builders want to find a suggestion and make it a standard. And oftentimes they'll do it for free. So rather than try to control everything, or rather than try to make everything perfect before we deliver it, think about the system or model that you could build, someone could build for you, and let the market absorb it. Service, Jimmy, we're about 4 minutes away from Laurel. Okay, great. Can she hear us? Yes. Laurel, we'll be with you in about 4 minutes. We're bringing on one of my favorite people in the company to talk about how she has become a specialist in a particular niche, and she has a big servant heart. So this service thing around Aspire is important because the quality of the customer's experience will be more important than the quantity of your sales. What I love about this home warranty company, which I apologize, I had not heard of America's preferred home warranty company until today because they're not in California. But what I love about them is they allow the consumer to select the vendor to make the repair. In California, we don't have that opportunity or that luxury. California is a little more difficult, and you're working through a solution. The quality of the service that they offer is more important to me than how many they've served. The quality is going to get my attention. The quality of the healthcare program is more important to me than the quantity of customers that she's helped. I don't need to know that she is the top producing. I need to know the quality And the challenge with us is if we're not winning, we tend to go back to a press release. The level of service you choose to offer will determine the level of talent, the level of client, the level of price point, and the level of income that you have. I'm not going to brag when I share this with you, but I'm going to tell you why it happened. We are 7 of us selling real estate in Palm Springs. 7. Last year to date, we're number 15 in Keller Williams. And the reason why we're number 15 is because of our ability to serve. Not to say that others don't serve, but our service experience is by far different, and we'll go through that in a couple of minutes. And the reason why it's different is because we increase the frequency of service. So let's go into our next slide of defining moments. Now, what I love about our company, and probably the highlight of our trajectory, is this whole concept of surprise and delight, which I started introducing to our company a couple of years ago. And I've watched the words surprise and delight go throughout the whole organization. We have hundreds, if not 1,000, agents in the company using surprise and delight. By the way, this is not something we sell. This is just something that we share. But we realize that there are 8 defining moments in a client experience, from the first introduction, where you hear of them, they meet you, the first appointment, the signing of the listing, and the photo shoot. Well, those are the first 4. Now, your relationship of warranty and yours of insurance and Cutco, these are all true for them. They don't sign a listing, but they sign a contract. They don't have a photo shoot, but they might do something else. The bottom 4, launch MLS, property preview, open escrow, contingency removal. We call these the defining moments because that's when the consumer's emotions are highest. Now, what's the difference between the top 4 and the bottom 4? What's the difference between the top 4 and the bottom 4? Well, the top 4, you control it. You control the first introduction. You control the first appointment. You control the signing of the listing, and you pretty much control the photo shoot because you put a device on your photographer's ankle that if they mess up, it'll be twitching their left ankle. But at the bottom 4, here's where the world shows up. You launch the listing, and then Zillow posts the wrong photos. Or you launch the listing, and Redfin has it in the wrong mapping location. And then the seller calls and he says, well, I have 400 people, that have clicked on my listing and no one's called. And I said, well, first of all, it's been 30 minutes and you're the one that's clicked it 400 times. I don't say that. That's my inner voice. My amiable comes out, if the person's amiable. But in this defining moment, we recognize that the top 4 is where you get the referral and the repeat business. When they love you, they're going to refer to you. When they love you, they're going to give you that review. The photo shoot, they love you. But at the contingency removal, they're exhausted. Now, in California, the buyer is given 17 days to change their mind. It's like open table. So we sold the home, 2 homes yesterday, and in 17 days, we will find out if the buyer really wants to close. In that 17-day period, they can change their mind and their entire deposit goes back. Horrible. Unless you're a buyer. So imagine as a listing agent, we have, 35 million scheduled to close in May. Well, we still have contingencies that come up today and over the weekend and next week. We'll see if they want to show up. Oh, me. Next slide. So we created what's called developing raving fans. In other words, in the first 4 steps, we really focus on developing raving fans. This is an example, you've all heard it, or most of you have, that on the photo shoot, we give them a gift. And that gift is this candle. And it's in a beautiful bag with tissue paper and a note card and a candle. And we leave that behind the photo shoot. And by the way, we use Cutco at step number 5. We don't wait till the end, and here's why. So at the photo shoot, they're like, oh my God, this candle. Yep, and they said in that card, which reads, while we're looking for the buyer, please enjoy the fragrance of the candle. We anticipate finding the buyer before the wick burns out. Now, Dennis, for the market centers that I own, here's what it says for an agent. While we're helping you find your first transaction, please enjoy the fragrance of the candle. We guarantee you'll have your first commission check before the wick burns out. Now, what other brokerage does that? I don't know of any market center that does that. We do that. And here's what happens. Oh my God, I love the candle. The candle's so incredible. We love that you love the candle. Let me tell you what we're going to do next. Now, I may not know every client, but I know where they are in the process. I don't know every agent because I'm simply the owner, not the OP or team leader, but I know where they are in the process. Thank you for selecting Keller Williams La Jolla. Thank you for selecting Keller Williams Big Bear. Thank you for selecting Keller Williams Lake Arrowhead. What we do is highly repetitive, and what happens is they'll give you the review or the referral. So by the way, Dennis, thanks for joining Keller Williams La Jolla. We're excited to help you earn your first commission check. Who from your firm or brokerage wants to join us? Oh, I'm so glad, Susan, that you selected us to sell your home, and you're going to love the photos. Who else on your street would like to have their home photographed? Why we get 3 to 5 referrals every day in Palm Springs is because of asking questions. Ladies, remember, when someone gives you a compliment, there's a way to receive it. So if I said to a lady in the room, I love your hair, the answer is, I didn't shower today, or my roots are coming in, or I just, put up too much hairspray. It's like, well, thank you. Would you like me to connect you with our stylist? So I'm in the elevator in Nashville. This is fantastic. And I'm on the 27th floor of the hotel, Kelly. And I get in the hotel elevator, and I make time to say, because it's awkward. There are everyone's like, got to look at their phone, because God forbid they look at you. Let me look at the phone. And I would have said to Kelly, Kelly, I love your jacket. It was a beautiful long jacket. And she says, oh my God, I got this for $108 because there's a coffee stain on the back. And she's actually, and what you do is you go in the app and then you buy this dress. And then and I'm thinking, oh my God, floor 14, floor 10, floor 8, come on lobby, we're stuck at 6. And she's going on and on. I said, can I give you some feedback? Yeah, I said, I just wanted to let you know that you look great in your dress. So I'd love for you just to say next time, thank you. And she's like, oh my God, why am I self-vomiting on myself? I said, I don't know. But I said, I just think you want to change how you handle a compliment because you're worthy of one. You're all worthy of compliments. So get comfortable when someone gives you a compliment and say, when they're giving you a compliment, they're giving you the right to give you more business. They want to give you more business. So we've got, I'm going to skip build. Jimmy, let's bring on Laurel. So as we're bringing on, you can get rid of the next slide if you need to. Is Laurel ready? Yeah. Laurel's ready. So I'm going to bring on Laurel. Oh, there's Laurel. Laurel, you look great. Now let's make sure we can hear you first, so bear with us while we check audio. We'll do a sound check. Laurel, can we hear you okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. You sound great. Let's give Laurel a round of applause. So, Laurel, of course, I'm going to give you an introduction if I may. So, Laurel and I had the privilege of connecting about 7 years ago. I had not been with Keller Williams, and I'd heard about Laurel Starks in Southern California as being a top producing business professional. And over the course of time, I've learned about Laurel, and Laurel has referred business to us, and we've helped those clients sell their homes, and I'm sure they'll buy again, which is great. But what I love about Laurel is she really defines everything we've talked about so far. She understands how to prospect. She understands how to market. She understands how to present. And she certainly knows how to serve. And Laurel is in Southern California today. And I've asked her to come in because she has figured out a way to handle business for those who've gone through a divorce or those who are going through a divorce. And this is a big business. It's unfortunate, but it's a big business. And so Laurel,
Recording in progress.
Great. So Laurel is going to share, I guess Gary is now listening. So Laurel is going to share with us a little bit. So Laurel, share with us who you are now that I've given you the introduction, and then we'll go right into what you do.
Hi, sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come in virtually. Brady, I was hanging on to every word you were saying as we were leading up to this, and I certainly am guilty of the hair compliment myself. So, in any case, hi everyone. I have been with Keller Williams. I was born and bred KW. I've been with Keller Williams going on 18 years. And my second listing that I took was a divorce listing. And it was a very interesting situation. It was with a woman who her husband left her high and dry, and she needed to sell the house within 30 days so that she could move her son up to Oregon to start school. There was a domestic violence restraining order. The husband did not want to sell. He, in fact, refused to communicate with me. And I had to become involved with the court in order to have orders made so that the court would sign my paperwork on husband's behalf. And it was a very interesting situation. And I was trying to figure out and kind of take maybe some classes online or figure out how you navigate these things. And there really was no support. There was no education for it. I subsequently got another case, and they were all very, very challenging, very interesting. And so I just dove in because I realized that family law attorneys really do not know any more about real estate than the average Joe on the street. So they were, at the time, the market was crashing. They're giving their clients really bad advice, and divorcing litigants are paying the price for this lack of understanding that family law attorneys and the courts actually have about real estate. So I made it my mission to educate lawyers, educate the courts on real estate issues as it pertains to their cases. And I have ever since, it's really all that I have specialized in. So I got asked by, realtors throughout the country over the years, how do I get into this? So I started I wrote an education and a curriculum and a certification for it in 2018, and launched the Alumni Institute so we can teach and train and spread the education and the business building methods throughout the country.
I love that.
A little bit about me.
So for those in the room that have not been connected to someone going through a divorce, meaning actually serving, what are a few tips of advice you have for them to be able to serve that consumer?
Certainly. So number one, it is to understand that you represent whoever is on title. So if husband and wife are both on title, they are both equally your clients. It can be very easy to align with one party who maybe you like better, who's maybe more motivated to sell. But at the end of the day, you're a neutral, and we must move forward in a neutral capacity. So that is number one. Number two is understanding that one person does not have unilateral decision making over who to choose as the realtor. So I often get asked, should I go after, recent filings and that sort of thing? Or I've started to build a relationship with someone who's indicated they're going through a divorce. So I'm hoping that I will be able to list the property, and understanding that it is not their decision alone. There are usually 4 to 5 people that have to be involved in the decision making. It is litigant number one, litigant number two, each of their respective attorneys, and sometimes the court. So it can sometimes be defeating if you're building a relationship too much with one side, which could be the exact reason why the other side and the judge will not allow you to list the property. So those are probably two big mistakes that I see that realtors make that cost them the listing.
Yeah, so what I heard on that is you've got to lean into who's on title, but not lead in with preferential treatment of one person over the other. Because that
Correct.
servant heart could harm by not getting the listing. So
Correct.
Laurel, if they want to go forward, what would be one or two ways that they could find opportunities of people going through divorce?
So really the best way, if you're looking to make this a niche and you're looking to build a divorce leg of your business, really the only way to do that effectively that is going to allow you to scale in any way is to go through attorneys. So that is a B2B relationship. It is not unlike how title reps or how lenders build relationships with us. And it really involves understanding their needs, understanding how we are the solution and the aspirin to their headaches, but we have to understand what their headaches are to begin with. And really it is becoming the aspirin to their headache as an expert colleague in the legal industry, specifically in family law.
So going after the divorce attorneys, are there any other sources they should pursue in addition to divorce attorneys?
There can certainly be mediators, which may or may not be a lawyer. Mediators are good, referral sources, as well as paralegals. Typically about 80% of divorcing litigants are unrepresented. So there might be one attorney on a case, or there may be no attorneys on a case. But a lot of times people who are not represented are enlisting the services of a legal document preparer or a paralegal who can assist them with the navigating through the system. So paralegals, I would say, and mediators outside of attorneys.
So Laurel, when they've found the relationship and they've found the opportunity and they've checked the title and they've handled everyone neutrally, I should say equally, is there anything else unique that happens once it's been listed that you want to advise them to do or not do?
Certainly. So you definitely want to get a copy of the court order. And there can be orders that are made throughout the process, even if they have not completed the divorce. So sometimes when I say court order, I hear back, but the divorce isn't final yet. Well, there are still orders that are made throughout that process. And so if there is an order made that indicates that the property is to be listed for sale, we as the realtor, as the listing agent, we need a copy of that court order, because the sale of the property is under the jurisdiction of the court, and we need to know what the court has ordered so we can ensure that our clients are compliant, so that we can ensure that if there are any unique instructions or anything like that, that we have them. So definitely you want a copy of the court order in the very beginning when you first take the listing, or when you first even get the phone call or come upon a divorce listing. That's one of the first things that you will want to make sure that you have. The other thing is to ensure that when you communicate with clients, that it is not joint. That is a big sort of, mistake, and I would say myth that I see on Facebook groups and, people that post their questions, maybe in lab coat agents or something, that they've got a divorce listing. What should they do? And I see 150 comments that say, make sure you copy them on all communication together. And that is absolutely not what you want to do. Number one, if there is a restraining order, you've just put your clients in violation of that restraining order. Number two, if there isn't a restraining order, there could be a restraining order forthcoming that we don't know about. And number three, even if the restraining order does not exist, what is happening is we are now in the middle of this crossfire. And we might say something as innocently as we need to make sure that the dogs are put away for the open house. And then that starts an entire eruption over the dog. I didn't want the dog. You got the dog. Why didn't you take the dog to your girlfriend's house? You know, all these things. And it does not keep the focus on what we need it to remain on, which is the mechanics of listing and selling the property. So you want to communicate equally, because no side should have any more information than the other. If you get an offer, you certainly need to communicate that individually. If you have, you know, repairs, all of the components of the listing and anything affecting the listing, both parties must be aware of. Just don't do it together.
Okay, good. So Laurel, are you open to some questions that maybe our great attendees would like to ask?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to just take a moment, hand it over here.
Thank you.
Travis has a question for you.
Hi, Travis.
Hi, thank you for the awesome nuggets that you've shared so far, and thank the whole staff for putting this thing together, because this is my first camp and it's awesome. So my question is, basically, when we were going over the service thing, I kind of wanted you to relate it to how you bring like a higher level of service to these clients that are going through divorce, and how that might be different from a normal client that
Okay.
isn't.
So Laura, how would the service experience be slightly higher or different with a divorce client base versus a traditional non-divorce client base?
Certainly. So great question. And there are, unlike in a typical listing, where your clients are limited to the people who are selling the house, in a divorce case, you also have to keep in mind the lawyers. If lawyers have referred you, that is the hand that feeds you. So we want to make sure that we're also delivering a high experience to attorneys throughout this process as well. So I'll answer the question for both. So with regards to the clients, it's very important that we remain in control of this listing. They have lost trust of the other party. They do not they don't trust what the other party wants to do, or what they say. So it's important that we have established ourselves as the credible, trustworthy, neutral person who is really like a source of strength for them. Giving them a heads up as to what is coming. These people, their lives are completely turned upside down. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to have custody of their kids. They don't know how much money they're going to have at the end of the day. They don't know anything. But when we can give them things to count on, such as it's going to approximately take this amount of time in order to sell the house. It's going to take, you will probably walk away with approximately this much money, within this time frame. Letting them know, I'm going to be there to do the walkthrough. This is what's going to happen at the walkthrough. We're going to have a photographer that's going to go out. This is what you need to prepare for, and this is what happens at the photography appointment. All of these things give them a feeling of safety, because their lawyers aren't doing that for their court experience. So that is making them, it's really more about how you make them feel than it is anything else. Taking away sources of conflict, such as they need to, they need to clean the house, or they need to repair a few things. If you are in a position to be able to upfront the costs of those things to get paid back at closing, that can be a huge source of service for them. Because even if they can afford it, who's going to pay for it? She doesn't believe she ought to pay for it. He doesn't believe that he ought to pay for it. So if you can kind of eliminate that source of conflict, that is a great way that you can provide service. When it comes to the lawyers, keeping the lawyers reasonably updated on the key points in time of the listing. When was the listing signed? When has it gone on the market? When has an offer been accepted and for how much? When is it closing escrow? All of these things are things that lawyers need to know for their own cases. And it's much better if the lawyer hears from you, the neutral expert, than hearing it from the client. So lawyers very much appreciate that. You don't want to give referral fees. You also don't want to give a gift that is in like direct correlation with a listing. For example, when a listing closes, you don't want to give a bottle of champagne to the lawyer for that. Rather, you could give, maybe at the end of the year, you could give holiday gifts to your top referring lawyers. But if you tie it to a transaction, that can get them in trouble. It can get us in trouble. So you don't want to do that. So those are some of the ways. Yeah.
All right. Who else has a question for Laurel? Yeah, perfect. Pat has a question for you, Laurel.
So I'm wondering if you've been through this, and maybe you can help me in that. I'll have to give you a little bit of background. A farmer called and wanted me to value 4 of his properties because he and his wife are getting divorced. He's currently living with a girlfriend for about 2 years. So things are contentious. I do all the valuations and I give it to him. I send him my invoice. I never get paid. I get a call from the wife 6 months later. Can you re-up all this? And everybody, we're all getting along fine because now it's been 6 months and now we're getting more serious. I said, okay, I didn't get paid last time. Are you willing to pay me? Sure. So I go ahead and I do it all and I send it off to her and I invoice her. I'm now being subpoenaed to testify. I've never done that before in 29 years of real estate. Not looking forward to it, but do you have any suggestions of what or ideas of what I'm going to run into?
So number one, you do not want to give your reports until you've been paid. So think about your reports, your fair market value that you did. Think about that as like a TV at Best Buy. Best Buy does not let the customer walk out with the TV, put it in their car and drive away, and then bill them later. So it's the same type of thing. That your report is a product and it needs to be paid in full before you release it. That is absolutely a rule that you should never bend on. Experts, that's how experts get paid in legal proceedings. They all get paid ahead of time before their reports are released. So that's number one. With regards to testifying, yes, I do testify very frequently on values and on, all sorts of things. So you can expect that your reports will be critiqued, and understand that when you are testifying, you know more about real estate than anyone in that courtroom, and don't let them make you feel any different. It is going to be incumbent upon the opposing attorney who doesn't like your report to try to discredit you. Don't waver. You did your research. You named the price and the value based on your 20-some years of experience in the industry, based on all of the tools that you have. And their job is to try to trip you up and make you doubt yourself. And just don't answer anything more than the questions they ask you. Don't go off on tangents. Whatever they ask you, you answer very succinctly. And you'll also want to speak to the other attorney who is in favor of your reports. You'll want to speak with them about any questions that you can anticipate.
Beautiful. So Laurel, in our final 3 minutes of screen time, how can someone learn more or get involved with what you have available?
Certainly. So the Alumni Institute, we are the largest divorce certification organization in the country, and we know divorce real estate better than anyone. We have got a complete business platform for, how to build a divorce leg of your business. So if that is something that anyone is interested in, then I urge you to go to getdivorcecertified.com and just schedule a call. It's free, and just kind of explore and see if it's the right thing for you. The other thing is we've got our annual event that is coming up in San Diego, September 12 through 15. We would love to have any of you who are interested in this. You can go to Alumni Elevate, ILUMNI, elevate.com, and check that out. And we would love to have you as a guest.
Awesome. You're the best. Okay. So two
Laurel,
things.
Laurel, you
just came back from where?
Costa Rica.
And does she look amazing right now? And Laurel, what's your mother's name?
Karen.
So Karen had emergency surgery last night. And so please put Karen into your prayers. Laurel, I love you. Thank you for showing up at the level you did, given everything going on with your mom. Please give her our very best.
Thank you so much. That means everything to me. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Thank you so much. What I love about Laurel, so many things, but how articulate is she? How focused is she? Can you imagine being as comfortable and confident when you're under that pressure? And everything she shared is right. I know you well. I've known you for 3 years now. The most important thing you have to be clear on is when someone of that power asks a question, you only answer that question as concisely as you can. Now, I know we're being recorded. I'll tell you this. Someone was listening to a radio ad in Palm Springs. We think the person faked an accident with a family member and has put a $12 million lawsuit on me. Now, I've never been to court. And I'm not someone who gets nervous. I hired someone to help me understand how to answer a question. I'm a driver. I tend to give more than I need. But I spent 2.5 weeks practicing how to answer questions succinctly and quickly. So in other words, how did you determine the report? Well, I looked at the MLS and I ran a report based on closed valuations. They're going to ask you to keep talking by silencing. Don't talk. Now, the expressives are going to want to talk. And your amiables are going to want to talk. And your analytical is like, what do I say? Driver? That might be one of your most important presentations in your career. Practice. Okay? All right, so we'll make sure that you get all the information from Laurel. By the way, the lawsuit, I think, has been released. He has filed 3 or 4 this was his opening comment to me. I know how much money you make. Insurance matters. Insurance matters. The insurance agent's like, you're not going to like what I have to say. The attorney, you're going to laugh at what I have to say. He's filing a lawsuit, $12 million. 12 million? And no one remembers the accident, no one saw the accident, there was no police report, and there's no damage on the car. Well, we'll probably settle out of court. I was like, absolutely not. Those conversations matter. So let's go to the next slide on a much lighter note.
Thank you very much.
Around build, strategy 5 build. Where is Justin? How are we? You're doing camera. How are we on time?
You got 7 minutes?
I can do it in 5. Okay. Strategy 5, next slide, if we can, Jimmy. Perfect. So this is something that Keller Williams created, we created, modified, and put on the screen. The most important thing to build, and we talked about this at dinner last night, are the systems of your business. And I recommend you look at one system, because everything that you do is highly repetitive and it can be turned into a system. Remember, you may not build the system, you may not run the system, but everything you do can be turned into a system. The next thing I wrote down is systems are simply the pathway for executing your standards. Systems are simply the pathway for executing your standards and delivering an exceptional customer experience. The standard of her checking me out of the hotel should be higher, right? I also wrote this for our amiables and our expressives. Systems do not have feelings. Systems do not have feelings. And by the way, systems take less time and less energy. Someone asked me, well, how do you do everything that you do and travel as much as you travel and still sell homes? Everything in my world is a system. I should have stayed at AC Marriott because I know that system. It's okay. I learned. And maybe she learned too. Systems need to be enhanced and improved. Systems need to be enhanced and improved. Find people who love to build and scale systems. Now, you're going to hear in a couple of weeks that we decided to take the Brady Sandahl Real Estate Group and turn it into an expansion team. You're going to hear about this. It's not that I wanted to make this a global sales team, but people in the team wanted more opportunity. And as a leader, our job is to build a world big enough where they never have to leave it. So we're going to build an expansion team throughout the country. Well, the way we're going to do that is to scale the systems that run in Palm Springs, because if we can sell a luxury home every day in that market, 40,000 people with 4,500 agents, we can probably duplicate that system in other markets. So the way to build is around building leads, listings, and leverage, which we know is the Keller Williams model. But inside that lead, listing, leverage, think, earn, net, receive, give, you know that model too. What's interesting is the value proposition is the foundation of everything. And without a value proposition, it's hard to get leads. And on the left side, the service plan, if you don't have the right service plan, it's hard to get a lot of listings. And if you don't have the database, well, it's hard to find leverage. This is a good model to put on your wall in your home and in your office. Let's go to the next slide. So finding, growing, and retaining talent. These are the ladies and gentlemen, and yes, I still use that word, that phrase. Ladies and gentlemen of Brady Sandahl Real Estate Group. Now, would it surprise you to learn that only one of them came from real estate? So, myself, to the right is Frankie. He was a top producing solar sales specialist and a top producing automobile sales specialist. Now he's a listing specialist. Cheryl, she was the only one from real estate. Jan worked for one of the large foundations of Bill Gates. Next row, Christina, big servant heart. Lynn, goddaughter of Frank Sinatra. Tony, working in restaurants. Chris, working in restaurants. Mark was director of valet services at Ritz-Carlton. Curtis was one of the top producing sales professionals at Zillow. Daniel was a big service standard leader in the U.S. Army. Dave was a news broadcaster who's now in charge of our listing visual magic experience. Joanne Well, Joanne, big baseball advocate, now she's our closing coordinator. Kelly was in charge of front services at restaurants. Michael ran a wine shop in New York. Javier was director of guest services at JW Marriott. The reason why these ladies and gentlemen do so well and how I sleep well at night is I never had to train them on standards or service. Where our market centers or our agents need help, oh, let me go find a newly licensed agent who doesn't know what they're doing, and then I'll try to train them to make 200 dials a day. Stop it. Or let me train somebody about customer service and standard. You can elevate them, but you got to figure out the key to finding talent is you catch them doing something well. Tony, second row, third in, prime example, and then we'll wind down. Tony was hustling in the middle of August in Palm Springs. It was 122 degrees, and he was putting up open house signs. And I'm watching this guy interact. I mean, he's like putting up signs. I'm like, I'm going to follow him. I like this kind of talent. So I follow him, and he goes to his open house, and I knock on the door, and he opens and says, like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. I'm like, I'm Catholic, looking up. He's like, oh my God, you're Brady Sandahl, and he runs from me. He runs. Like he literally ran. He ran away. So what are you doing? Where are you going? He's like, you can't see me now, I'm sweating. Oh my God, you're my idol, I'm sweating, you can't see me right now. I'm like, where are you in the house? Like, where are you? And I said, hold on. I said, I have one question. Where do you want to go and how can I help you get there? And he's like, what? Where do you want to go and how can I help you get there? And so we took him through the CV process. And here's what happened. Day one, we send our ladies and gentlemen to the Ritz-Carlton for training. We are trained by the Ritz-Carlton. So he calls me and says, hey, I know the training starts in a few minutes and I'm here at the Ritz-Carlton, but I don't know where to park my car. I can't find the parking lot. I said, well, Tony, there isn't a parking lot. And he says, well, where do I park the car? I said, you park it at valet. Well, what does that mean? I said, you pull up to valet and you park your car. He's like, well, what do I do with it? He's like, you pull up and you turn the car into park and you get out of the car. Well, what do they do with it? I said, they're going to take your car. What, are they going to give it back? Tony, get in the goddamn... Tony, they will give you your car back. He's like, well, okay, I've never used valet. Okay. Tony had the work ethic. Tony was at Residence Inn level, and now he's at Ritz-Carlton level. That's what you want. Work ethic, understands work ethic, which is unique. You can elevate them. You find, you grow, and you retain talent. I don't have any more time to tell you all the things I want to share with you, but I will leave you at this. You hear a lot of things about who you're in business with matters. That's true. And you hear a lot about, well, what you focus on expands. That's true. And you think about all the things that we share with you. The most important thing that you do is you become a specialist in your authentic self. And you have enough strategies to figure out what is going to be the one you play. Prospecting, marketing, presenting, serving, building. Pick one. And in that one category, pick one action item, because here's the reality. The most important thing you've got to focus on is not mindset. It's not even skill set. It's running the play every day. Selling urgency. So on that note, to all of you, from all of us at Keller Williams who wake up every day to make sure you have the absolute best experience and all the resources you could have, thank you for being in business with us. It is our pleasure to be in business with you. Thank you. All right, Justin, you're up.
Thank you, Brady Sandahl, and thank you for committing to MontanaCamp 50. I appreciate that. It would be our pleasure to welcome you back. Yeah. One more time, friends. Let's give them some love. And that is his real, authentic self. As I shared with you earlier, when I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm putting together this little camp in Montana. Would you like to join us? And he said, it would be my pleasure. And then when we were done with that phone call, he sent me a text. It's an honor to be in business with you. And I was the little fish who just grew bigger. That's the power of those words that he was talking about in the beginning. That's the power of using those words, of phrasing the right way and asking the right questions.